Drawing for God. That's my best James Earl Jones voice. Hi, folks. This is Elgin Subway Surfer Bowling, your creative caricature marketing consultant. Hey, I know that I touched on drawing for God in a video entitled 13 Jump for Joy art gigs, but I really wanted to expand and expound some more on this subject. And I tell you unbiasedly that this is my go-to gig. I'm a man of faith, but you don't have to be in order to prosper in this gig, in this type of gig, rather. In fact, the Bible says that your gift will make room for you. And if you are any kind of a visual artist, your gift will definitely make room for you in this particular market. Guaranteed. The Bible also says that, what does it say? I had this all prepared. Give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give unto your bosom. And the religious community has always throughout history given bountifully and appreciatively to men and women who have become artists and were willing to contribute their art to, I'm saying so many words here, they've been willing to draw for the church. And let me tell you, there are just so many opportunities. Let's get started with why it's a great thing to draw for God. The cornerstone of the Christian faith is the birth, the crucifixion, and especially the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. And the vehicle that Christians use to get the message out is through a religious tract. Not tract, Track, but tract, Tract. It's a form of visual communication. And the way I look at it, it's a mini comic. Did you know that one of the most widely distributed and widely read comic in the world are chick comics? I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're tracks that became popularized in the 1970s, and there are billions of these tracks that have been made over the years since then, translated into many languages, and they're widely distributed. So there is a market in doing Christian tracks. A lot of faith communities are open to making their own, and they get an undeserved reputation for not being funny. I mean, people of faith. People of faith are very funny. They're hilarious. They like to laugh, and they especially like to get the message across in an engaging, funny way. This is an illustration that I did for Easter. It shows Satan, or the representation of Satan, at the empty tomb with the vacancy sign on there because, well, that tomb ain't occupied no more. Here is a contemporary version of Jesus from a comic entitled The Christ Chronicles. It depicts Jesus' 40-day fast before he started his earthly ministry and he was tempted by the devil. I decided to use my own rendition of what Christ looked like rather than go with the culturally acceptable, quotation marks, model of what's always used as Christ. And I got the idea to do this after seeing a Shakespearean play, Much Ado About Nothing, starring Denzel Washington, as the king in the role. Everybody kept to the Shakespearean script, but everybody was dressed in modern day dress. And so I figured, hey, if it works for Shakespeare, the Bible is told in Shakespearean language, it'll probably work for this too. And that's what I did. That's what you can do. These are the type of things, these are the type of innovative ideas that people in the Christian market are looking for. And it's something that you can definitely do. Another great thing about drawing for God is that the Bible is filled with these over the top, larger than life characters, like my friend John the Baptist. Actually, he's my favorite character. The guy, first of all, he's walking around in 90 to 100 degree heat wearing a camel skin coat. That's what he's wearing. And his diet, he's not on the Atkins diet or anything like that. He's on the wild locusts and honey diet. I mean, that alone just screams for exaggeration. This character practically draws himself. But I guess it doesn't matter that he's in 90-degree heat, walking around wearing camel skin, because he's always in the water, yelling at people to repent. One of the last illustrations that I drew here has him holding up two rocks, and I always remembered the line that went along with that. He's yelling at the Pharisees, who seem to be smug in the fact that they're the descendants of Abraham. And he yells, don't be, I'm paraphrasing now, don't be too smug because you say within yourself that you're the children of Abraham, because God himself can raise up these stones as to children of Abraham. Classic, classic line. And the Bible is filled with this type of stuff. And it's so much fun to draw. Once you lose your inhibition and your tendency to take the text so seriously, or to say within yourself, well, I don't really believe in this, so I really can't draw this. Just let all of that go. Treat it like you would treat any illustration job, where you're given an assignment, where there are characters, where there are parameters, and where you have a script. How can it be any easier than that? The great thing about drawing for God is children, and church is filled with a lot of children, and Sunday school teachers will thank you. They will kiss your pinky toe if you provide them with something that will keep their students engaged, happy, and most of all, will reinforce the lessons that they are trying to teach them about the Bible and about God. This is where you come in. For years, I was not a comic book illustrator, but a coloring book designer and illustrator. I would take familiar passages from the Bible during the Thanksgiving season and also during the Christmas season, and I would illustrate those. The good thing about that is I could use any particular style that I wanted. My preferred style is cartooning, so I use that pretty liberally, but I also would have opportunities during Christmas to use a more abstract style, like you see on the left. The tree is pretty liberal, pretty normal, but if you look at the angels, they're drawn pretty much abstractly, and you can get away with it because, well, we don't even have really a description of the angels, so I can kind of let my imagination run wild. This is an easy gig to do. Easy to create these drawings. Like I have said before, the passages in the Bible, you can just look those up. You can Google them. You can go to Google and say, give me 10 passages from the Bible on Thanksgiving. Give me 10 passages in the Bible on Christmas. And you'll just get them. Then you just illustrate them. You present this to the people in the church. Bada bing, bada boom. They pay you. Their students are happy. You're happy, and you keep getting callbacks the next year for the same project. Oh, but that's not all. That's not all. Not only can you do this during the holiday season, but you can do this virtually with any type of study, major study in the Bible. The flood, Noah's Ark. You can do this with Daniel in the lion's den. You can do this with David and Goliath. Do you see what I'm going at with this? All the time, you make these coloring books, you present it to the Sunday school staff, and they will pay you handsomely for it. Another great thing about drawing for God is drawing for God's people. God's people. They are people like any other person, just like you. They have social media accounts. They have web pages. They have blog pages. They participate in internet discussions. And they want to stand out in the digital crowd, just like you do. This is why you should be approaching people in churches, particularly ministers, priests, evangelists, Sunday school teachers, so that and approach them and ask them how they would like to be digitally represented in social media. That's what I did. I went to this church in Long Island called The Point. Now, as soon as I found out that was the name of the church, my mind started racing. How can I illustrate this? And then when I was introduced to the pastor and saw how he styled his hair, I automatically thought of that old comic strip Tintin. I couldn't believe he had his hair styled like that. I practically drew his caricature in my mind's eye on the spot. I talked to him for a few minutes about social media, how he liked to be represented. I showed him some samples of my work that I always have handy on my phone. And in no time, I was commissioned to do this great caricature of him that he used proudly in his social media posts. This is very easy to do. God's people are very receptive to this kind of stuff, and it can be a very lucrative enterprise for you. So don't be afraid to approach God's people. After all, they're people, just like anything, just like anybody else. What's great about drawing for God is that the storylines are told in narrative episodic form, which is a tremendous relief for an illustrator because you don't have to make things up as you go along and hope that your audience agrees with the choices that you made. What artistic choices should you make when illustrating? That really depends on your target audience. I've found that children and teenagers like a more edgy type of style. They're more open to something that is cartoony, sometimes even abstract. You can get away with that because you have to come up with something exciting to hold their attention. While adults like more of a traditional, conservative type of approach, kind of like a cartoony portrait style. That's what I call it. And that's what I've included here. That's the style that I use here on this project that I had to do on the life of Joseph in these 3 panels. Joseph first, in the first one, he has his coat of many colors, shows it off to his brothers, yada yada. They don't like it. They arrange to have him thrown in prison. And while in prison, he gains prominence. He gets the attention of the Pharaoh. And then he raises to the point where he's the second in command. I told the story bad, but you can get the idea, with the pictures. And, another thing that I like about illustrating it, it doesn't matter what you believe. We're not asking you to believe this or not, because the text is there. It's a script. You read it, you illustrate it. That's it. Well, folks, it's that time, the end of the video, where I say something thought-provoking and insightful. But drawing for God, that's a hard act to follow. But I do hope that I sincerely hope that I made some believers of you out there. This is a great market to draw for, very financially rewarding and lucrative, not to mention fun. You'll have so much fun drawing for religious markets. Also, what I neglected to tell you is that people in faith communities love to party. They're always having some type of party, some type of social event. And if you hook up with a congregation that is a synagogue in a Jewish community, well, you could be doing bat and bar mitzvahs because they love children and they're always turning 13. So you can get really, really busy, doing that. This is Elgin, Subway Surfer Bowling, your creative caricature marketing consultant. If you like the content, consider subscribing. Also, I love comments. I love to read what you guys have to say because it helps to improve my channel. So please feel free to comment. Look forward to hearing from you.